What's it like to be back? Just to be back in your hometown? I know you went to Ohio State, went to Linden. What's it like to be back here now?
I'm trying to choose my words correctly and honestly. It's been different, and the primary reason it's been different is because of COVID. I've actually been back in Columbus going on 3 years.
Oh wow, okay.
But because of COVID, haven't gone anyplace. Restaurants downtown. It's been a very quiet existence, which is neither good or bad. It's just the fact that these are the signs of the times.
You talked about in your press conference about building relationships. It wasn't really possible during COVID. How did you try to learn and grow in a time when you couldn't really see people and reconnect with people in your hometown?
I've spent quite a bit of time on the phone. I've been in and out of town, especially once traveling became a little bit more. The past 18 months, year, I didn't realize how it affected me until we took a family trip to Washington, D.C. last spring. And I suddenly realized that being around crowds and in crowds, which I don't necessarily like anyway, but I was kind of leery. And people say, well, you're in crowds all the time. That's kind of sort of true. We come on a game day, for us as coaches, it starts maybe around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then the crowd comes, we're there, the crowd comes, and then the crowd leaves, and then we go home. So I'm never really in the crowd. The crowd is always around me. So, so socially, it has had somewhat of a dramatic effect on the rubbing elbows, the bumping and the talking, you know, excuse me and all that. It has had a sociological effect on me.
Have you been able to at least find a way to keep up with the game, even during COVID? I know they weren't able to play for a while, but what have you seen from basketball that you've been able to maybe keep up with and now teach to these guys that you have today?
Well, I haven't watched an entire pro game until the playoffs right now. I've started primarily because I'm old school, and I know the game's going to constantly change. But at the same point in time, the game doesn't have to be all about the person who has the ball in their hands. I learned to play without the basketball, and young people these days, they only play when the ball is supposedly in their hands, in their possession. And there's so much happening without the ball. I think that they're getting cheated in terms of how I was taught the game. And I know that's selfish, but at the same point in time, and like I said, I know the game's going to take another turn, but it's going to be constantly changing from this point on.
How do you try to implement that into guys' heads, that it's not just iso ball, isolation, but you need to be able to move around without the basketball and operate in space even when you don't have the ball? How do you try to relay that message to guys who aren't used to hearing that?
Well, it's just going to take time, and you're going to have to want to do it too. You just can't say it, but that's the way the teachers that are coming in this period of time, that's the way they're learning the game. So it's not going to be so much of a foreign for them to hear it and to execute it. It's just going to be different. And so I have to embrace the difference in our games as well.
You obviously did when you were a coach. What were some of the differences that stood out to you the most, whether that be Lakers, Bulls? You had a long career on several different places. What were some things that you maybe evolved with as times changed?
Well, I had a very good coach in high school, and I had another good coach in college.
Who were the coaches?
Well, Vince Ciccarella at Linden-McKinley, and Vince is in the Ohio High School Hall of Fame, Ohio Basketball Hall of Fame, and then I had Fred Taylor at Ohio State. And then my rookie year as a player, I had Bill Sharman and Casey Jones as head coach, assistant coach. And if you're a Boston Celtic fan, you certainly know who Bill Sharman and Casey Jones are. And then I had Lenny Wilkins as a mentor, as a fellow player, who took me underneath his arm to really learn how to become a point guard. Now, a point guard a real point guard is much different than a lead guard, because in those days he was literally somewhat of a coach on the floor. So that helped me, once again, kind of round out the edges and understand what it really took to be a good basketball personality. And I'm eternally grateful for the people that have touched my life, not in a basketball sense, but more importantly, my growth as an individual and a person who wants to one day take his place in the community that I live in and in the society in which we function.
You talked about the people that you've been in their lives and out of their lives because of this game. You mentioned how important that is because of basketball. You meet so many different people. Have you ever had a chance to reflect on how much has happened and how many people have crossed paths with you over the years, whether that be Michael Jordan or Pat Riley, Jerry West, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe? Have you thought about, in perspective of, not only did they give you something, but you also provided something to them too?
Well, I think about it constantly because, the people that you cross paths with, and the good thing about this life that I've been so blessed to live, it's a two-way street. I look at the young people. I look at Chris Paul. Had Chris when he was his rookie year, his sophomore year as a player. Giannis and Chris Middleton up in Milwaukee. So blessed to have an impact on who they are as personalities. It's just endless because they're also good people. And when I say good people, they understand the value of working together and accomplishing goals. This is what has made, when you look back and reflect, this is what makes, I'm not going to say it makes life worthwhile, but it also gives you a value on what you're doing. It kind of validates that, there is something positive that's happening with the work that you're doing.
Is it reassuring to see guys like Chris Paul and Giannis who are playing the game the right way, the old school way sometimes, that they do operate well without the ball and they get their teammates involved? Is it nice to see that it hasn't all gone by the wayside? There are still guys who are out there doing it well and doing it correctly?
Well, it brings back an old adage. I'm from the South, and there's an adage for everything, but there's more than one way to skin a cat. Yeah, you can do it this way, but you can also, have you thought about this? This works as well. And so it's wonderful to see that the two can coexist. There's no right way, no wrong way. The question is, did you accomplish the goal at hand? And did you have fun doing it? And did you learn something and how to get along, how to function? See, there's no right way. But there is a way that can accommodate each one of us for the particular needs that we have.
How long do you think it took for you to learn that as a player going through the NBA or through college?
Well, I had to learn it very quickly because, once again, I wasn't one of the best players on the court. As time has had it, I was able to first survive, and then I was able to thrive because I didn't have anything set in my mind that I couldn't do, and I could do everything. This question is, would I be allowed to do everything, and what did you need that I could provide? See, I had to accept roles because I wasn't the best shooter, I wasn't the best but I was a pretty good player, and I was willing to do whatever thing. Because like I was telling someone the other day, I did not like to lose. So what do I have to do to help win? That's the secret. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Play defense, pass the ball, rebound, whatever, because I did not like to lose.
What was that sustainability as a coach? What kept you successful as an assistant coach, a head coach there too, but what helps you contain that success success, not just as a player, but when you started coaching as well?
Well, I think my ability to relate to players, because once again, I wasn't the best player, and no one coddled to what I wanted, and so you make do. And even on the second team, when you're on the second team and you're being very competitive with the stars, then you realize, hey, we can compete. We can do this. That doesn't mean you're going to win a championship, but you can make a contribution. And that contribution is being part of a successful organization, part of a successful team.
When you try to relay that message to people right now, everything's instant gratification in this day and age. You get it on your phone, your attention span's 10 seconds or less. How do you try to make sure that you capture a young mind? I know that they are, and you have a lot that you're going to come in contact with over the years too, but how do you try to grab that lightning in a bottle a little bit?
Well, once again, now you got to be patient, because you have to realize that you're talking to a completely new age group, and their rules, how they learn is different than how you learn. So once again, the word adaptability and patience enters your vocabulary.
Do you remember that when you were at Linden or Ohio State, of someone trying to instill that into you? They were from a different time period, but they were able to take what they had learned and apply it to a young guy like yourself at 18, 20 years old? Well,
yeah, but see, in those days too, my freshman year was a learning year. My freshman year, you learned the system. And then your sophomore year, you were allowed to play. See, so I had that year of getting adapted to the physical context. Even though basketball is a non-contact, it's still contact. You just learn how to avoid. And learning, when, yes, you have a voice, but you better make sure you raise your hand before you speak. But so those are you earned your stripes. You didn't come in expecting as a freshman to make a contribution, right? Because you knew you had a year to learn. So, like I said, it's a whole new way of living and acceptance. And once again, I can't be the grunge mad because the rules have changed. Once again, I've got to adapt to the new rules and understand them and be a part of the change, not part of the problem. And it's not really a problem if we continue to communicate with each other. It's only a problem when one of us does this, and now you think that when as kids say, you're dissing me. And that disrespect, once again, causes another emotional and psychological fear or action to reaction. See?
How do you think that's applied in your life outside of basketball? All of those things that you just mentioned, all the things that you learn, adapting and change and listening, how has that helped you off of the court?
It's given me a perspective of being patient and realizing that nothing happens overnight, and you have to continually have that. One of my daughters, I tell you, sometimes you have to self-talk. You got to talk to yourself about what's happening, not only to you but with you. And you have to be patient with yourself. Things don't happen just because you want it to happen. So you have to learn to be patient with yourself. You have to learn to be patient with those around you who are trying, hopefully, to help you. You have to realize not everybody who says they're here to help you is going to help you, for whatever reason. Not everyone has the same agenda. So you have to, don't be Pollyannish about your life and circumstances, and be aware of your circumstances around you, because that can change instantly.
My last question for you is just what's motivating you to continue to give back to basketball? It's a lot of what you talked about this morning was this need and this desire to give back to the next generation. What is that that's still motivating you to do that to this day? Because you could, call it quits, go on a beach somewhere and just enjoy the rest of your life. What keeps you coming back to this?
What keeps me coming back is I know that coming back, I'm actually moving forward. Because once again, if you are on a track team, and I had the baton, and you're my next handoff, you're the next in relay, how do I pass that baton? I pass it forward. So that's what I hope I'm doing. I'm not giving back, I'm passing it forward. And hopefully, in my passing it forward, when you get to the age or the stage of your life where it's your turn to pass that baton, I want you to be able to say, this is the way I learned it. And this is why it's so important, is it gives me some credibility, it gives me accountability that moving forward, I'm also helping to expand the growth and the vision that you have for the future.
Just one more off of that then. What is moving forward after this game? Because it's just one weekend. Is there a coaching staff that maybe you want to join? Maybe Linden? Is there anything that's on your mind about somewhere that you'd like to join the coaching staff just as a assistant role?
Well, I think the position that I'm looking to help is the fact that I don't have to be the head guy. But thoughts and opinions are important. Different perspective has credibility. It's another voice. And you don't have to do it my way, or you don't have to do it your way. But maybe somewhere in the middle, there's common territory where they complement each other. So that's what happens in the heat of battle. No one plays a perfect game, but there's a game to be played. At the end, the team that makes the least amount of mistakes generally wins. But it's not a perfect game. So I don't expect a perfect performance, but I do want young people to have a wonderful time, have a great experience, so when they look back 10 years from now, 15 years from now, they'll have fond memories and great joy in the fact that they one day, hey, back in their memory, I did that, I was there, I participated in that event and had fun.